Hello and welcome. It's Canvas, the Niger-Delta Roundtable. We'll discuss the future of this region, blessed with hydrocarbon resources, and other kinds of resources, by the way, especially the humankind. Every week, we give time to reflecting on topics relevant to the development of the Niger-Delta and the people. This episode is no different. I'm here once again, focusing on how to take the region to a more promising future. Be reminded, the podcast is sponsored by the operator of the NNPC, Renaissance Total Energies Archie joint venture, Renaissance Africa Energy Company Limited, headquartered in Port Harcourt. Thanks for joining. I'm Adedayo Ibushakin. Topic for this episode is what parents do. Now, I like to think of it as a part two to last week's episode, which was what children need, and that was in commemoration of Children's Day. Now, this week, it's an honor, our conversation this week is in honor of the Global Day of Parents. And in commemorating that, we're asking a simple but powerful question: what do parents really do? Now, beyond the school runs, bedtime stories, packed lunches, there's a world of unseen effort, emotional labor, and quiet sacrifice. In this episode, we'll peel back the curtains of the everyday acts of love and resilience that define parenthood. You hear possibly real stories, heartfelt reflections, and maybe even recognize a bit of your own parents or yourself in the journey. So whether you're a parent, were raised by one, or simply want to understand the heart behind the role, this episode is for you. Again, today topic Canvas is what parents do. My guest is Dr. Soye Asawo. Now, Dr. Asawo is an associate professor of organizational leadership and behavioral research. Is also the head of department, business administration, faculty of administration and management, River State University here in Port Harcourt. Dr. Asawo, for the second week running, welcome to Canvas, the Niger-Delta Roundtable.
Thank you, Daya. It's my privilege to be here again.
It's great to have you. And this was deliberate, by the way. It's no accident, because when I discovered that Global Day of Parents was just the week after Children's Day in Nigeria, I figured, why not? Let's have a conversation back to back, because one could say that there are two sides to a coin. What children need. Generally, children are produced by parents, generally speaking, even though some might say simply producing children doesn't make you a parent. Well, I'll ask you that in the course of the conversation as well. And I figured since I was going to have a conversation with you about what children need, a parent would know what children need, besides having certain other qualities, which I believe you possess. And that's why we're here again, having a conversation on what parents do. And it's taking quite a lot around you here to record both episodes still. Once again, thank you very much for your time and for being here.
I'm glad to be here.
Great. Let's get straight to it then. I'll ask you this question, which I already hinted at a while ago. Who's a parent?
A parent primarily is one who provides for the raising of children or a child. It's a process of raising children. That's parenting. That's what parenting is about. So a parent is that person who is involved in that process of raising a child in an informal setting. We have other activities for raising children, like we have in our educational institutions. But when we talk about parenting, it's actually a role that happens in the context of the home. So a parent is that person who ensures that the child is raised. So parenting is about rearing. It's about nurturing. It's about caring for children and ensuring that they pass through the different stages of development until they are fully formed. So parenting actually is a role that you play within a time frame. A parent can be alive for as long as, but the action of parenting has a time frame. My mom is alive. She'll be 90 this year. But she is no longer playing that role. In fact, there's a reversal of role at some point. The child who is now grown at some point begins to parent the parent. So it's important for us to have this understanding so we know that we need to redeem the time. There is a period when that process starts and ends. It starts at childbirth, it progresses to a certain point, and parenting no longer becomes effective at certain points in the life of a child. So it happens within a time frame. It happens in the context of the home, and is a process of nurturing, a process of caring, a process of bringing up a child.
So, I guess what you're saying is, in a certain context, the biological process of producing an offspring does not automatically confer the title parent on a person. And pardon me, I'm going to use some mimicry now, because when a child behaves in a certain unseemly way and you question or query the parents about a child's behavior or some similar scenario, it's not unusual to hear a parent respond in a fashion such as, now God, they raise children, implying that God is the one who raises children. So implying their job is simply to produce them. Are you saying then thus that simply producing children does not confer parenting rights or privileges or even status on a person?
Every animal produce, produces children. Cats produce children, dogs produce children. Some animals, the day they produce, that same day, there's separation. For some other animals, a few days, or a few weeks, or a few months. So parenting, to some extent, happens within a short period for those animals. So parenting is actually a responsibility. The act of producing a child to this world doesn't constitute parenting. Parenting is a process, it's not an act. Giving birth doesn't entirely describe what parenting is all about. So, of course, we know that there are different ways that children come into a home. So someone may not biologically produce a child, yet is a parent. So parenting is a process, and it involves a whole lot of activities. So it goes beyond just producing children, biologically producing children.
I believe we'll come to those activities in a moment. So let's start with let's continue with the qualities for now. So what qualities, in your estimation, does a person require to be a parent, or let me go a step further, to be a good parent?
Maturity is one. And when we talk about maturity, it's not about age, but it's about a sense of duty. It's about your ability to manage the affairs of yourself and the child that is under your care. there are lots and lots of grown adults who still act as children. So they can therefore not be good parents because they don't exhibit maturity in the way they speak. They don't exhibit maturity in the way they carry themselves. So they cannot be good parents. Maturity is required if you're going to be a good parent. Emotional stability is important for parenting because parenting is, in a way, transmitting values to younger generations. And if you are not emotionally stable, you will not be able to handle all of the many unexpected actions that may come from the child. You may not be able to handle them and still remain sane. So you may take actions that will be detrimental to the future of the child. You could become harmful to the child yourself. So, because children, in our private discussion, we were talking about, I said, children inherently are a bundle of folly, and they need guardians to be able to be directed in the path that they should go. So they will exhibit foolishness in their actions. It's inherent, and you need to be emotionally stable to be able to absorb some of those actions from children and be able to put them in the right path. So emotional stability is required. Emotional intelligence is also required. Emotional intelligence is knowing how to manage your emotions and the emotions of others. So, for a parent to be effective in raising children, you need to be emotionally intelligent. You need to know when to speak and when not to speak. You need to know when to use a particular tone to address a particular issue. For instance, a child has misbehaved and you're smiling at the child. Using a harsh tone at that point doesn't necessarily mean that you hate the child, but you want to make a point. And as sharply as you're able to make that point, it sinks. But if you miss the requirement for that moment, then you lose the child. So emotional intelligence is very, very important. How you relate with others in the presence of the child is also very, very important. And that is a function of your level of emotional intelligence. Again, another characteristic that is very, very important for parenting is your level of education. Now, education does not necessarily mean formal education. Doesn't necessarily mean formal education. Formal education could help, but formal education is not everything. You need to have a level of awareness. That's what I mean by education. A level of awareness around you to be able to manage bringing up children. If you are isolated from what the going on, the going on around your environment, that which is happening around your environment, that which is happening around the country, then there will be a problem raising up children because you are acting in isolation. We are social beings, and as social beings, you need to have vast understanding of what is happening around you to be able to bring up your children. So that's also very, very important. Maybe I should rather use the word information. You should have sufficient information to be able to bring up your children.
I believe we classify the word with use of the word awareness.
Yes.
Can't be aware without access to information. You describe children as a bundle of folly, inherently. That's the natural state, I think. So they require guidance. So if an entity in this case children, as a bundle of foliage, that means their natural disposition will be to act in such a manner,
Yes.
which would require, I suppose, a certain amount or a lot of patience in dealing with that entity as a bundle of foliage. How critical is patience in parenting, and how do parents develop this patience?
How did I miss patience as one of the characteristics? It's top on the list. It's top on the list. Parents need a lot of patience to be able to take on the responsibility of parenting, because, like we said, folly is inherent in children. A psychologist, Sigmund Freud, talked about the three stages of personality. The first stage being the id, and the id is the natural state, and that natural state is inconsiderate. That natural state is a bundle of folly. That natural state is uncontrolled. Okay, and then there are higher levels, the ego and the superego, which the actions of parents help to now channel the child into the right path, where the child now has the right judgment. The child's behavior is now shaped by morality, standards, values. Okay, and for parents to be able to bring all of this to bear, for the child to get to the point where the child can now make decisions that are guided, the parent has to be patient, because in that journey, what you see more often than not will be the manifestations of that inherent state of the child, which is folly. So it requires a lot of patience. And if you're not patient, you become harmful rather than helping the development of the child.
I perceive that it's critical for parents to love their children, should be good parents, or to be considered good parents, or to carry out the process of parenting properly and effectively. Does love suffice? Is it enough, rather, to simply love the child, and or are there other things?
Love is soft where truth is absent, and that's dangerous. Truth is hard where love is absent. So there must be a balance. As a parent, it's important that you love your child, but that love must be anchored on truth. So you would have had people talk about, you're spoiling your child. In the eye of that parent, the parent is demonstrating love to the child. But in reality, the parent is providing a platform for the destruction of that child. So we need to actually interpret love properly. Love does not mean lavishing earthly goods, if I'll put it that way, on a child beyond the capacity of the child to handle. So you provide all that the child requires and beyond. That does not constitute love that is anchored on truth. So it's important that parents love their children. Love is a very important ingredient, but you need to be sure that that love is anchored on truth. Once love becomes soft, it is no longer for the benefit of the child, but for the detriment of the child.
Parents as beings themselves have needs, have demands also. First as individuals. Now, what are some of the biggest emotional and mental demands that parents contend with and deal with daily?
Parents are humans, and humans have a litany of needs, insatiable. The economists will tell us that human needs are insatiable. And parents are humans. They have economic needs. How to meet the, as we say, how to put food on the table. They have social needs. They have emotional needs themselves. They have spiritual needs. Because just like children, parents are cognitive beings, they are emotive beings, they are physical beings, and they are spiritual beings. So, in all of these ramifications, parents have needs. Parents need to feed. Parents need to wear clothes. Parents need roof over their heads. Parents need to take care of their business and a whole lot. Parents do have needs, yes.
So how can a parent or how can parents manage these needs or balance these needs with the needs of their children as well? Because we've had instances where parents just say, you know what, I can't do this any longer. We've had instances where one parent simply opts and just leaves because they cannot deal with the pressures any longer, whether emotionally or mentally or in some other capacity. How can parents properly balance this, their own needs of whatever kind versus children's needs?
It may be trivial, but one way I look at parenting is to pay rent. Pay rent. Paying rent is a responsibility. I'm using something very trivial. Okay? To parent a child is to pay rent.
Oh, okay. I see what you're doing now.
Yes.
Okay.
So, you see, it takes a whole lot to get involved in the life of a child and sustain that in the face of present realities. But parenting is primarily a commitment. Parenting is a commitment. And a commitment is kept both in good times and in bad times. I think a lot of people come into parenting without having a proper orientation of what is involved in it. Parenting in itself is a responsibility, and that responsibility comes with a cost. So, to be able to achieve or succeed at the responsibility of parenting, you need to be sacrificial. And there has been a lot of advocacy for people to be less sacrificial and to think more of themselves. And so some are even advocating that, why are you spending all that you have on your children? Parenting is an investment. And it's an investment that if you get it right, the returns are huge. So, and for every investor, you need to be patient. You need to go through the tough moments, and ultimately, you enjoy the dividends. So, those who chicken out of this responsibility because of the pressures are either unaware of what the expectations of parenting really are, or they were not prepared for parenting, or they are overwhelmed by situations. I can relate with parents who get under the pressure, but that's no excuse for giving up on your child, because at the end of the day, the gift of a child is about the most important or the best gift anyone would have. It goes beyond silver and gold, whether it's biological or by adoption or by any other legitimate means that you have a child is a great privilege and a great honor. And to chicken out should not be an option at all.
You use the phrase "get it right," and it ties into my next question. Before I get to that question, you describe parenting as a responsibility, and a scene from a movie comes to my mind, and came to my mind as you were speaking. I don't quite remember the title of the movie right now, but there was a Denzel Washington movie, and in the scene, he was in the backyard of the home with his son, and he was having a very serious conversation with a young boy, and he asked him why the son thinks that he takes care of him, puts a roof over his head, gives him food and clothes. And I think the boy responded something to the effect that because he loved me. And Denzel laughed somewhat sarcastically and said, no, it's not because I love you. It's because it's my responsibility. That's why I do this things. Not that nothing to do with love. I'm responsible for you. That's why. And that was quite instructive. And what you just said as well. Now, to get it right, a lot of parents are under some pressure as well, or parents generally, I think, could be under constant pressure to get it right. Because when they don't get it right with the child, it's considered to be the failure of parents or the failure of the parents, and that's why the child has not turned out right. How do parents deal with that pressure? And does not getting it right automatically imply failure of parenting the parent? Because we have scenarios where family or parents have more than one child and they seem to have got it right with one or two children and may not have got it right with one or two others. The same family, by the way, same opportunities presented to all the children, but they all turn out differently. How should parents deal with that pressure to get it right?
I think that to get it right, parents should enjoy the process. The outcome is usually not in your hands. And we need to run with this understanding. But enjoy the privilege. And when you have done all that you need to do, be grateful. But the outcome is not in your hands. We've seen wonderful parents, but that didn't have wonderful results with all of their children. There are certain things that are inexplicable. You just can't give an explanation to certain things that happen. But for you, your joy should be that you have done what you need to do. You have played your role well. You have taken responsibility. And the outcome goes beyond just you. Because there are multiple factors beyond parenting that affect the outcome. So, there's peer pressure. There is some, attack that come from different quarters, all working towards destroying the destiny of the child. There is a lot that has to do with what happens out there in the society that you have no control over as a parent, that would also play a role in how the child turns out. But I think the responsibility of a parent is to give the child a life jacket. If along the line, the child pulls off the life jacket in the deep sea, you have played your role, but you can't affect the outcome. You can't impact the outcome much. Your role is giving the child a life jacket. The child also has a responsibility to use the life jacket. But in the journey of life, sometimes, for some reasons, children pull off the life jacket. It's no longer the failure of the parents. The failure of a parent is, by definition, the parent not playing the role that is expected of that parent, not the outcome.
We're going to go for a break shortly, but this question quickly before that. What is something about parenting? Maybe one thing about parenting that people often underestimate.
What people often underestimate about parenting is the little details that are involved in parenting. The little details that are involved in parenting. Just like a farmer who identifies weeds and eliminate those weeds before they pose a serious danger to the plants. Parents must pay attention to the little details around their children. And a lot of parents do not pay attention to that. Parents look at the things that look big and obvious. I have to pay my children's school fees. They have to wear good clothes. I need to ensure that they eat well. I need to take them out. Those things that are obvious and look big. But there are very little details that parents need to watch and ensure that they take care of. But I think a lot of parents miss that point and ignore that point.
What parents do is the topic of our conversation of this episode of Canvas in commemoration of Global Day of Parents. We have to go for a break now, though. We'll return in a moment. Conversation will continue. Just stay with us.
In the heart of our journey, where the sun touches the earth and the wind whispers through the trees, a new chapter unfolds. A chapter where energy illuminates more than just bulbs. It lights up minds. A chapter of unity, a coming together with a common goal to energize futures and illuminating lives. In classrooms, young dreams evolve, inspired by the promise of a brighter tomorrow fueled by available energy. Small businesses flourish, becoming seeds of prosperity. Energy that empowers and is catalyst for growth and change. The future is energy. So, let's light up the path to a sustainable future together. Energy for you, me, and the world at large. Energy for people and planet. We are Renaissance.
Welcome back to the Converse Niger-Delta Roundtable, brought to you by Renaissance Africa Energy Company Limited. I'm Dio, commemorating Global Day of Parents. We're discussing what parents do. Dr. Soye Asawo is my guest. Welcome again.
Thank you, Dio.
Parents often wear many hats. Teacher, nurse, coach, counselor, some might even say friend or best friend. Which of these roles do you suppose is the most, or maybe I didn't even mention it, which role do you think is the most important and the one that a role that parent must assume, if not all the time, or at least most of the time?
I think the role that is very important is the role of a friend. The role of a friend ensures that the parent gives a listening ear to the child under your care. The role of a friend ensures that the parent provides support for the child. The role of a friend ensures that you look after the child. The role of a child, of a friend, ensures that the child can find in you confidence. The child can find in you trust. The child can connect with you at any time. The role of parents before now appear, particularly in our client, appear to be that doesn't allow for friendship. But friendship is not a bad thing. Friendship does not mean that there is no place for respect. Friendship actually is a good thing. And because of the dynamics of society today, as different from what it used to be, friendship has become even more important than it used to be in the past. So I think that the most important role, in my estimation, will be that of a friend. In that role, you will be willing to make sacrifices for your friend. You'll be willing to go the extra mile to ensure that you guarantee the safety of the child. A lot goes with that, being a friend to.
But I've heard in certain conversations or discussions, I've heard it said by certain persons, maybe it's somewhat contextually, I should add, that a parent is not first and foremost their child's friend. I'm not your friend. Suggesting a higher position or a higher calling, if you will, than that of your friend. Now, how would you respond to that?
Now, that's about perspectives. Okay, so you have a glass of water midway, someone looks at it and says the cup is half empty. Another person looks at the same glass of water and says it's half full. Okay, so what does friendship mean? Is what we need to clarify. Does friendship connote a relationship of equals? Not necessarily so. Because speaking from the religious perspective, from the Christian perspective, if you will permit me, we are the friends of God. Does that make us equals? No. So it's a definition of what friendship is that is a problem. It's our understanding of what friendship is. Friendship does not necessarily mean a relationship of equals. You could have senior friends. You could have junior friends. That you are friendly with your children does not eliminate. Now, like I said, parenting is a whole lot of responsibility that you take up. And you do not lose your guard because you are friends to your children. It doesn't mean that you should not met out discipline when you need to met out discipline. It doesn't mean that you should you become a child yourself. You don't become a child yourself. You remain the adult, you remain the parent that you are, and you understand that. But I think friendship is talking more about being open to the child to the extent that the child can relate with you, and you'll then be able to know how best to handle the affairs of the child.
The parenting rules shift between the mother and the father, or maybe depending on family structures.
It's complementary. Both have their roles to play in the family by the socio-physical outlook of the father. There are certain responsibilities that the father is best suited to play. There are also other responsibilities that the mothers are best suited to play in the life of the child. So it's a complementary role, and that's why it's usually a bit more difficult when one of those roles are missing in the family. We have a lot of, and I give kudos to them. They are doing a lot of them are doing a great job. Single parents, single parenting is not easy, and it's because you have to feel both responsibilities. And for those who are doing a great job at it, we give great credit to them, because it's not easy, even when you're playing your own role and now combining it with the role of the other party. So it's complementary. Everyone has some responsibility to play, and both together will make for better parenting.
Are parents necessarily or compulsorily so role models to their children? And if so, how big of a role model the parents constitute?
The parents are the first role models that the children encounter, but they are not the only role models. As children grow up, they begin to make independent decisions based on their levels of exposure, and they could then choose other role models. But the first role model that the child encounters in life is the one that spends the most time with the child, and that's likely to be the parent. So, in a way, you can't run away from the fact that you are the first role model. And the role model simply means that you are the typology for the life that the child will imbibe. And if that's the case, you have to be very careful. You have to be very careful, because the child is reading you as like a book. The child is viewing you as a movie, and the template is being formed in the child. So yes, I agree that I believe I subscribe to the view that parents are the first role models for the children. But children grow up, and the desire of every good parent is for the child to surpass them. And if that's the case, then the child will pick up role models that surpass you, the parents. Some keep their parents as role models for the rest of their lives. But like I said, exposure will then shift the focus of some children to some other role models. But they will continue to cherish you if you have played the role of a role model well while you were in that capacity.
Now, the word discipline has been used more than once in the course of our conversation so far. But also, words like compassion are also very positive kind as well. And one might expect, or may expect, or should even expect parents to show compassion and empathy. So how do parents balance discipline with compassion?
It is out of compassion that you should met out discipline. They are not parallel lines. Compassion and discipline are not parallel lines. They go hand in hand. Your compassion should be towards the future of the child. And if you want to guarantee the future of the child, then discipline is a necessary tool to achieve that. So the compassion is not necessarily preventing a child from receiving any pain now, if that's the definition of compassion. then that's a wrong definition of compassion. For me, compassion is I want this child to turn out well. Compassion is I want to see this child in the best possible future. And if that's the case, then discipline will be part of my engagement with that child. Okay, so these two things are not parallel lines. They are actually part and parcel of the parenting process. Demonstrate compassion and also ensure discipline.
You've hinted, and maybe even expressly spoken, I perceive that parents have a significant role to play in the child's worldview, the child's values, but also you used an analogy a while ago when you talked about the life jacket. It's ideal if the child retains that life jacket in the sea that is the world and life. However, unfortunately, in certain instances, you have the child taking the life jacket off and maybe a drown, ending in bad results. So, what is the role of parents in determining a child's values, a child's worldview? And can parents actually even determine that conclusively?
Conclusively, no. But you can set the ball rolling. Parenting is like providing the fuel to get the journey started. But as you know, the fuel that gets the journey started is not necessarily the fuel that ends the journey. At some point, there will be need for refueling, isn't it? Mm. So there's a point that the first gas station where fuel is dispensed for the takeoff will not be the next gas station where the next level of fueling will be done. So a parent is like the first gas station that provides the fuel for the child to get started in the journey of life. But the journey continues outside the purview of the parent at some point, and likely so. So at that point, there will be other gas stations. Okay? But what parents will do to guide that whole process is what you talked about, creating the right value systems for the children. If parents are able to provide the right value systems and that's why I talked about paying attention to the little details is critical for parenting. Not just paying attention to the obvious and the big things, like I said, providing school fees, providing good clothes, and all of that. The little details of courtesy. So, a child wakes up in the morning and doesn't greet the adult around him. As a parent, do you keep quiet? The child uses a service from another person and doesn't say thank you. As a parent, do you keep quiet? The values that you create at that level when the child is tender runs with the child the rest of their life. Helping the child to know how to maintain order. So a child finishes a meal, no matter how small, teach the child to take the plate to the sink. Not allow the child to keep the plate there and then you call the caregiver, hey, come, carry John's plate. No, you don't do that. Give the child the right values. Okay? Let the child learn how to create order. Let the child know how to keep a clean environment. Let the child know how to dispense favors to others. Know how to manage their environment. There's a lot that goes on in the life of children that demonstrates the absence of parents, not the big and obvious things. So parenting requires a lot of paying attention to details and being careful to understand the little things. The little foxes, they say, pose the greatest danger.
I must ask you this very quickly, guys. So if in spite of all of these efforts, at shaping the value system of a child, or even creating a broader worldview that's considered ideal and all of that, all of these efforts, as plausible as they are, the parents may be active in playing those roles, impressively, I might even add, but does not conclusively determine the outcome of the child. What then is the point of it?
The point of it is you've had that privilege. And like I said, enjoy it. It's a privilege of life. Enjoy it. Now, you as an individual would not be able to determine everything that happens with the child. I think I'm just reiterating that point. So from the onset, understand that parenting is a privilege and enjoy it. The essence of it all is that you have played your role well. That's the essence of it, that you have played your role well. The outcome, a lot of times, will be in your favor if you have played your role well. I must say that. A lot of times it will be in your favor if you have laid the right foundations. On a few occasions, it may not play out the way you had anticipated, the way you had expected. In any case, sometimes the outcome is even bigger than your meager efforts. So, whether it's for good or for bad, enjoy the fact that you have that privilege. Enjoy the fact that you have done your best.
Once again, we are in
So, Dio,
yeah.
Why do you invest when you have seen a lot of business investments fail?
it's definitely better to invest than not to invest.
Okay.
Once again, we are in the digital age. Have responsibilities of parents changed due to this digital age?
Yes, it has. Society has changed. A lot about society has changed. So the role of parents, I must say, is also changing. Today, I mentioned last week that we now have a virtual society, which we didn't have before. And people literally live in that virtual society. Children live in a virtual society. And parenting has to move into that platform. A lot of parents have little physical contact with their children today, even when the children are still home. A parent leaves in the morning as early as 6 a.m., sometimes return as late as 6 p.m. That's 12 hours. In terms of the period that we are still awake, 6 to maybe 8 or 10 p.m., as the case may be, is far too small compared to the time that we are apart. Now, that being the case, technology becomes the filler. It becomes the bridge between the parents and the children. So how about from time to time calling the child? Because today, even toddlers have phones. Or at least the caregiver who is home has a phone and you can access the child from that using that line. So it's important that you keep connection with the child using technology, taking advantage of technology. It's important that, so the child leaves home and goes to school. How frequently do you keep in touch with the child? It's very, very important.
We have to wrap this up now. Support systems. No doubt children require support systems, platform as you described a while ago, to help them develop. How about parents? Do they require support systems as well to do their job of parenting effectively?
They do require a lot of support systems. Some of those support systems are provided by religious organizations who provide opportunities for learning, seminars, workshops on parenting, and all of that. Government can also be a support system by supporting programs that would benefit parents in understanding the role of parenting. I think we have some ministries that should engage more in helping parents play their role. The Ministry of Social Welfare could organize programs for parents to help them understand their role. Communities also have a role to play as support system to families. Communities can also put together engagements to help parents and play their role. So yes, parents need support systems, and it's very important that we all rally around to build those support systems for parents.
Dr. Soye Asawo, once again, thank you so much for your time and being on campus in Niger-Delta Roundtable.
Thank you for having me.
In this episode, we've discussed in commemoration of Global Day of Parents, what parents do. It's been a fascinating conversation in my estimation. Thank you for joining it. And once again, special thanks to my guests. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Have yourselves a wonderful rest of the day, and as parents or intending parents, endeavor to play your role. And as my guest has mentioned severally, enjoy the process while you're at it. I'm Adedayo Lishakin. This was brought to you by Renaissance Africa Energy Company Limited. Bye for now.